there are three teams that I think we didn't touch on that everyone would say need to curb salary, and that is Boston, Phoenix, and Denver, depending on what they're doing. And if you're there, it seems like regardless of what those teams do, there's only two teams that may, and you told me this, most deals moving forward are going to have to be 3-team trades or more, because it seems like to get a deal done, it's going to be easier if you have more partners to help facilitate said deals.
I don't know if it's most. I think the majority will still be 2, but I think there's already a statistical increase in multi-team trades. Like, I talked to Mitch Kupchak. What year was it? It was probably around the Dwight trade. So we're talking, whatever, like 13 or so, 2012.
12.
Somewhere around there. So we're talking about 13 years ago. I talked to Mitch Kupchak, and it was the Lakers. And I'm like, you might have been able to, or maybe it was the Trevor Ariza leaving and them getting Ron Artest. So it might have even been a couple years earlier. It was somewhere in that range. Meta World Peace, Ron Artest. So like, I was saying, you might have been able to generate that flexibility if you did it multi-team. He's like, yeah, but the moment you start going multi-team, you try to get cute. You have more people who say no, the deals get harder, and it's just more likely it's just going to blow up in your face. And while that's a conservative approach, it's conservative at the time. That was kind of the thinking for a lot of teams. You did multi-team when you had to, but it wasn't like, oh, let's just get another team involved. Now, because of the complexities, that's kind of like, you're going to move Jimmy Butler, you got to get other teams involved. You want to make a big deal with a lot of moving parts with apron teams, you have to have someone who can take on the salary. Not only that, teams like Charlotte, San Antonio in recent years, Detroit, potentially Brooklyn this year, are putting themselves in the position to be the recipients or the beneficiaries of those teams needing a third partner, so they can just they'll take on salary, but they get young players and draft compensation, draft picks to take on junk contracts.
Sure.
So it might be someone they take on and then cut or flip for someone else. That it's become more common because it's necessary. You look at Phoenix, like Phoenix is what it is. Like, they saw the new rules and decided to defy them. And will that work? So far, the answer is no. Doesn't mean it won't work this year. They could win the title 25-26 and shock the world. I don't think they will. We don't know what's going to happen. Any of the 30 teams could win.
But to offset those players, it would have to be a multi-team trade more than likely if they wanted to trade a Beal or a Durant.
Salary via trades. So
yeah,
it just gets harder and harder. So there might be situations where if they want to reduce salary, then if they make a trade taking in someone making 10 and maybe they're sending out 30, well, who's taking on the additional 20? So there's all kinds of different ways to go about it. I don't know that they're going to try to reduce salary. They may just stay as high as possible. Boston, I spoke to some people with the Celtics before the year who said that, like, if they win again, it's going to be up to the new owners, but it's going to be very hard not to go for a three-peat with the existing group. They didn't win. Tatum,
you have an extension
out for the whole year. So even before that, they were saying if they don't win, they're going to have to make difficult decisions because the tax rates double, the repeater tax doubles. The tax rates shift where the lower rates actually drop. For a team like New Orleans, which is never in the tax, it's less expensive to be in the tax for the first two brackets.
Mm-hmm.
Then by the third bracket, it makes up for the lower, and then it offsets, and very quickly it ramps up even higher. So the tax bill for teams like Boston, Phoenix, Cleveland, Denver, they all start to jump. Denver has been under the second apron. They've stayed under the second apron and will stay under the second apron. So it's really just a matter of how much they want to pay for a team that is with Jokic and Jamal Murray, if healthy, arguably a contender, but too thin to really be a dominant one. And so they have to make a decision. Can they get value for Michael Porter Jr. to replenish depth? Is there a different path? First of all, is Jokic willing to extend? That's a big question that no one's really talking about. Like, if the answer is yes, they'll extend him and he'll take money and he'll be under contract with the team for a long time. If he doesn't want to extend, well, what does that mean? Does that mean that he's leaving? And if he's leaving, Can they afford to let the best player in the league, debatable between Shea or whatever you want to argue, but like, let's say he's the best player in the league, theoretically. Do you just let him walk for nothing? So at some point, does Denver have to trade Jokic? I'm not saying if an aggregator says, oh, I heard Eric say that, it's crazy. No, I'm saying if he doesn't take the extension, which he probably will, then what? If he's not taking it, what does that mean? Why isn't he taking it? And then if he's not taking it, does that mean that he's not going to resign? He'll be unrestricted when the time comes. A lot of teams would put themselves in position to have cap room to get Nikola Jokic, even if they don't get it, to at least make a run at him, right? And he's around 30, but he's not at a point where you're like, oh, he's starting to fade. There's no sign that he's fading yet. You can probably get 5 years out of Jokic if you think he's right now. Look, obviously Tatum got hurt, guys get hurt, but there's no like. I knew that Paul George, watching him in LA with the Clippers, I knew that his value was decreasing in terms of production. You would get 25% of his games would be like, and that's a made up number, but 25%, you're like, this guy might be the best guy in the league. And 25%, you'd be like, this might be the worst guy in the league. Then the other 50% would be some mixed bag of in the middle where it's like, he'd show signs and then you'd be like, oh man, his legs are dead. And the Sixers invested like he was still that guy when he's not that guy. Jokic appears to still be that guy. So give him a max extension. He'll take it probably. But if he doesn't, what then? And, he may not want to. He may love Denver and want to be there his whole career, whether they're a top contender or not. Or maybe he's greedy for another opportunity to win a ring and wants to be somewhere else. I have no idea. We can only guess at this point. But Denver is in a limited position with that payroll that high.
You can go.
Go ahead. Well,
I was going to say. Go ahead. You finish what you were going to say, Eric.
Let me see when they're a repeater. Denver has been in the tax 22, 23, and 24. So they are now a repeat offender.
So with that being said, you kind of touched on it. Denver, Boston technically has two ways, but Denver, like Phoenix, you kind of have, it's kind of obvious what the player or players they would move to get under or to upgrade the team, because with Denver, like he said, it's Michael Porter Jr. because Dario Saric and Zeke Naji don't have any or even negative value towards them. So you would think that if they were trying, obviously you would love to move Zeke or Dario, but I don't think that's happening unless you're giving up Payne Watson.
I think Saric. That's how they say it on the broadcast.
Saric. Like I'm Sean Connery. Like Saric.
When I was listening to the Phoenix broadcast,
Saric.
I would he would say when he was with Phoenix, they would say Saric, and I'm like, that's how you say that?
I did not know that. Yeah, I thought it was like the other like Yugoslavians.
Well, maybe the guy in Phoenix was saying it wrong.
No, I like the Sean Connery sound to it, Saric.
I don't know. That's how I say it because that's what the guy in Phoenix used to say. There is a pronunciation guide. I probably should look
there. If you go to NBA.com, I think if you click on it.
I know where it is. I just don't.
Yeah, same
bandwidth to really read it.
I read somewhere.
Caster in terms of like doing the the live games, I wouldn't get all those right within the best of my ability, but I just don't say their names enough in public to have to worry about it. But Saric might sign overseas and then take a buyout. He'll opt in and then maybe take a buyout. So they could get out of some of his money that way, but they could eventually they could trade a young guy.
I've read Watson is one because he plays a similar role to Aaron Gordon. You're going to choose probably Brown over Watson.
It's a team that needs young, cheap talent.
Yeah,
and also Watson needs to be paid soon. So if Watson's expecting to be paid, what is he expecting to be paid, and can he get paid what he wants? And the answer might be a no in Denver based on their situation. And then Najee, it's a tough one, but they could always stretch his salary out, and that would take the money off. That's what Phoenix did with the dude that they got from the Blazers. I'll pull it up. He's in the G League, or he was in the G League this last season. Nasir Little.
Oh yeah, Nas Little. They did do that. Yeah.
So there are always ways to be creative and to make things happen if you're so motivated.
If you're motivated, when trying to dangle Watson as a sweetener to get off of a contract like Najee.
Only if you're not intending to pay Watson. If you think
Yeah, of
Watson
course.
is, because they just don't have enough talent. They're at a talent deficit. So trading away, whether you like Watson or not, he was a rotation and a playoff rotation player for them.
Yes.
They don't have enough playoff rotation guys. He's extension eligible this summer. If they're not going to pay him his value that he thinks it is this next summer, or they can extend him this summer or pay him next summer as a restricted free agent. If they think they'll win that battle, they also have to pay Christian Brown. And Christian Brown is probably looking at like a lot of money.
Yeah.
Like he is
They need to keep him.
an impact starter in the playoffs, which is crazy. And God, congrats. I'm happy for him. So to be able to prove himself as a player, he helped them win that first year, but like it was sort of in spot moments. Now he's like part of the reason why they're successful. So
He could be Michael Porter Jr.'s replacement in terms of,
but maybe closer to 30 million is what he's just looking at this point, which whether he gets or not, maybe 25 if they can get him down to that number. Like you could say, well, we're paying Gordon. Gordon's getting 32 next year, so even the Gordon argument, he's making 23 this year, so even that doesn't hold up as much. So Najee is a stretchable player. If you get Sharch on a buyout and maybe get $1 million off or something, and maybe stretch that number too, you start to hurt your future flexibility, but future flexibility might not matter. So if you're paying Jokic, Jamal, and you trade Porter and keep Gordon, pay Brown, and then decide on Watson, and obviously there's, Deron Holmes getting healthy might help.
Another trade chip though too.
Well, I mean, again, like they need the cheap talents. Holmes is $3.4 million next year, not even this year. So this year I'm saying 25-26. He's 3.2. Then he's 3.4. Then he's 5.5. So I wouldn't trade him.
But there's no draft assets, is what I'm saying. If like you were trying to move off a Porter Jr. contract, you're going to probably have to give up a young guy like Watson who you don't want to pay, or Deron Holmes. You get what I'm saying?
Hunter Tyson, Jalen Pickett, maybe Strawther because his contract is coming up. Probably Watson. Get him to a team that is willing to pay him. If you're not, like you're trading Watson before Holmes, because Holmes' value is at a minimum because he didn't even play last year, and he hasn't proven that he's an NBA player yet, just because he's a rookie, right? Like a rookie has to prove on the court that they can impact. Doesn't matter where you were drafted.
And he's coming off an Achilles.
Right. So what is he? You don't want to trade him, number one, because he's cheap. Number two, he's long. And number three, his value is a bottom. Whereas Watson, maybe you can trade him off of the spikes that he had in the playoffs and get him to a team that likes the contractual position he's in. Where if you can get Peyton Watson at like 20 million a year, if you think that's what he's worth, and he wants 30, but you can get him to 20, or if he's wants 25 and you can get him to 15, like 17, like there's some number that maybe Denver's not willing to pay, that maybe some other team's willing to pay, then you might be able to move Najee in that. You might be able to move Sharch in that, or maybe there's some sort of combination with Porter Jr. So I'm not a very big believer in the fan brain desolation theory of like, oh, everything is over, we're screwed, it's terrible, everything's terrible, we're never going to be good. Things change very quickly, and you can, like the Doncic trade is certainly an example of that, or even Lakers with Westbrook, where they went from being a mess with Westbrook to going to the conference finals, which I think they benefited from a favorable draw in the playoffs. They were healthy at the right time, and they probably weren't quite at a Western Conference Finals level with the existing roster that they had, but at least their fate changed from being like garbage, not making the playoffs. Lakers are going to be terrible forever and waste the rest of LeBron's career. I'm going off of the exaggeration from a fan going through the pain of not liking where their team is. If your fans are in that position, there could be a quick turnaround, but it has to be executed definitely, carefully, and I don't even know who their GM is. Like, I think it's Ben Tenzer is like...
I think he was named officially. No, I think he was named officially with David Altman the other day.
Okay, so
Adelman, my apology, not Altman. Adelman.
Yeah, if Tenzer is officially that guy and that's his job, he has been there a long time. He's been their strategist for a long time. Doesn't matter, because my role in what I do is as a strategist, but I'm not the one making the decision. If I'm helping an agent, I might be helping them with strategy. If I'm talking to someone with a team or I'm writing a story, these are theoreticals. I'm mapping out pathways, but someone has to make the final decision. And if those were Calvin Booth and I know a lot of strategists who have been embarrassed by the executive decisions made, and it goes on their resume. So if you don't like what the Nuggets have done and you say that Ben Tenzer is responsible for them, it's on his resume because he was there, but he wasn't the decision maker. So I don't know him. I think I've met him before, but I don't know him well enough to even say. But that said, if he makes wise, calculated decisions and has some fortune, there's a pathway forward. But the most important thing right now is Jokic and getting him to extend. This year, he can add 3 years. He can opt out and add 3 years. He may not want to do that. He may want to get to next year and then add 4. But all that said, like, usually guys want to put on as much money as they can, as much as possible, as quickly as possible, especially when you're already at 10 years of service. 10 years of service being the most you can make. The most you can make is 35% of the cap at that point. There are ways to get above that. Like Steph is making, actually Jokic is making 35.7 because the cap didn't go up as high as we thought. So it's based on raises and such. But generally speaking, there's a limit to what he can get anyway. So the goal would usually be for someone like Jokic to add those 3 years. We're talking about a massive amount of money. He would probably get a player option. So he'd be going from 2 years to 4 guaranteed plus the 5th, which is his choice. So that 3 years. And if you're saying those 3 years start like in the, what's the max in, let me get the max. Get max for, let's see, 3 years from now at the top level, that would be about 72 million. Right. And that 1 year, 2 years. So it's 2 years from now. So I'm 1 year ahead. So it's 2 years from now.
$216 million though.
65.
Oh.
So it'd be 65. And then he could do that times 1.08, which is a raise of 8%. And then add another year. I can't really see what I'm doing with my mic in front of me. Times 2 minus that. So
from what
and this is pencil scratch number. Oops, hold on a second. Let me just
You're good.
What that figure is.
While you do that, though, I want to say Denver's situation isn't as desolate as fans want to seem. They have clearly players or ways to maneuver through the situation or just to roll it forward. But in comparison, if you're Boston, you're kind of you're looking at a more.
It's not a good time.
Yeah, because in my mind, the best case, if you're looking at Kristaps, you're kind of trying to look at Utah and get like a John Collins, I assume, or just flip Drew Holiday.
Brooklyn. It's like Brooklyn.
That's another thing I was gonna say. Yeah.
Just take.
Okay, you're looking even just to dump him. You're not looking maybe to get expiring talent to try to do to filler. You're just going.
I mean, so like.
You get what I was saying though.
Yeah, well, the number I came up for Jokic is about 212, without really looking at it closely. So let's say it's 200.
Okay.
If you can lock in 200 million, you lock in 200 million this summer. You don't wait another year because you can add another 60, 70, 80 to it. You like get a player option so that you could do it. Yeah. So if we're looking at Boston though, like they have so much money. And if you say this year is like, number one, they can't tank. There's too much talent on this roster as is, that with this coach and with this roster, they will win 30 games, 35 games minimum, right? Like unless there's another injury. You follow me? Like if you're Jaylen Brown, Drew Holiday, Porzingis, White, Pritchard, no Tatum, and then whatever role players you have, you're still going to win enough games to that you're not going to get a top 5 selection in the draft.
But don't you want to move Porzingis and Holiday to create flexibility down the road and in the short term?
Right. So Porzingis is expiring. If you can get out of him without anyone really back, you do that and just get that money off. Maybe, I don't know that the Nets will take on 31 million. And if they do, they're probably going to want something they're probably going to want a first, if not more. And, because that's such a large number, because they could do multiple deals with their cap room and they might be able to get multiple firsts out of multiple trades. So if you're going to dominate their cap room, it's not all of it, but a big chunk of it with 31 million, they're probably going to want something really special out of that. And so, that's one issue. Drew Holiday can, maybe / probably get traded to a team that views him as an impact player to help them, be at a high level. But 32, 35, well, he's 33, well, 32 for 35 almost the next year, and then a player option for 37. It's a lot of money. It's a commitment, 3-year commitment. That's not every team's going to want that. Not every team can even do that. So those are difficult questions. Looking at
I know Washington for the Wizards, I think Drew Holiday could be like a dumping, not a dumping, but like a guy that they would want as a guard there.
That's too much money, too long. Why would they want Drew Holiday? Like, he doesn't help them win. They don't want to win, not yet. But he doesn't fit their age range, and they already have veterans who can help them in Smart and Middleton.
I was thinking of Marcus Smart then, you know what I mean, creating a 3-team trade where you try to Marcus the expiring contracts, which was what I was thinking.
Yeah, but they'd rather Smart just expire. Like they don't want to take. Well, no, like they'll take on if you're going to give them a ton of stuff.
Yeah, like you sweeten obviously. I'm saying like teams like that.
Well, I just said how hard it would be to sweeten for Porzingis as 31 million for 1 year.
Even expiring?
Yeah. Like the Pistons were asking teams for like 1 or 2 firsts this summer for their cap room.
Wow.
And then eventually they settled on whatever they settled. But they were greedy, as they should be. The Nets have a monopoly on cap room. Are they going to be less greedy? No, they should be more greedy because the Pistons, at least there were other teams that could do stuff. At some point, the Pistons had a monopoly, but the monopoly was on a small amount of space relative to what the Nets had. So, but now with Holiday, you're talking 33, let's call it 33 average, give or take. 3 years of that. So if it's hard to value what a dump for Porzingis would be, if it was a straight dump for Holiday for 33 times 3, what do you need, 3 firsts to take him on? If you're Washington, like you would need a massive haul because that's tying up your cap for a really long time in a player you have no need for whatsoever.
So it would have to be a contending team, you're saying, taking on Drew Holiday.
A team willing to take that kind of commitment, which is very few that would take on that kind of commitment for an older player who is still very good, but how good is he going to stay at that price? And he's not like a lead scoring option.
You don't think a Utah would
Holiday
be?
Is like Utah, like why? No, like Utah should stay absolutely as far away from as possible from like. Well, I think Utah's still gonna try to not be a playoff team. I think that their conversations should be moving Markkanen. That they theoretically renegotiated and extended him to turn him into a player that they could trade for value, in theory. Collins is someone they should trade to get value. Sexton, either to keep him or don't. Clarkson, but like the way I like to cage it is like who needs to be on this team in 2 years on the Jazz? You could say Keontae George. We don't know yet, but we can argue it. We could say Cody Williams. We don't know that. We could say Taylor Hendrick. We don't know these things yet. Like there's no Collier, same. Like they have good young prospects. None who we could say you could say for sure that like if you're the Thunder, Shea needs to be on your team in 2 years.
Yeah.
You could say for sure that Jalen needs to be on your team and Chet needs to be on your team in 2 years. You might not say that at the same level about Isaiah Hartenstein, right? Like there's a point where Alex Caruso at his age, you might say like, okay, like if you were offered someone else for Caruso in 2 years, you don't need to have Caruso. You might need to have someone else in 2 years if he starts to diminish and based on price. So like when you look at like the Jazz, like they certainly don't need to have Holiday in 2 years, but he would be under contract in 2 years. And there's no one else on this. So it's really hard to get a role player like he's arguably the elitist of elite role players in the league, Drew Holiday, but he's still not like, he's not going to carry your scoring at 20 to 30 a game, right? Like he's not your primary driver of your offense. He's not going to be a Halliburton. So
You think Golden State, who allegedly are interested in Derek White,
it's too
would
much
want?
money.
You get it done if it's Kuminga sign trade to the Nets on a $30 million deal with Moses Moody also going there, and then
Yeah,
you
but
send Hall.
Well, your outgoing value for Kuminga is only half of what you send out because of the sign and trade rules.
Mhm.
So if you send out 30 for Kuminga,
It's 15 coming back.
it's 15 out for the
Yeah.
players.
Yeah, 15 out. Yeah,
15 plus Moody
11.
is 27.
Yeah, 27.
Out 27. You're still not at Holiday.
I think you can get throw in Guy Santos and Trace Jackson Davis to get the money over.
Guy Santos, they like Chase Jackson.
Oh, I know, but I'm just saying to get the money.
Also, I don't know that the Nets. The buzz I hear is they don't even like Kuminga.
Yeah, I know.
At least
I've
they
heard
don't
that.
like him.
I've heard
So-
that. Yeah.
And then like, what's the real value of having Steph, Jimmy, Draymond, Drew, and then maybe just Buddy and Pajemski, but no one else
Yeah.
in a league where you have to have like really like 8 guys. How many players are the Thunder, the Pacers, the Wolves, and the Knicks playing in a rotation?
8 guys at most.
Right, but like
7.
they have guys though. You see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, they can go
have to
10,
have
12
them.
deep.
and so the Warriors at this point, a team that already wasn't deep enough to even field a team, in part because, in the playoffs at a competitive level, and mostly because Steph got hurt, getting thinner and thinner for an older and older player whose contract goes past Steph. That's an instant no for me.
Yeah.
Like,
So
they're
are you
stopping all their money except for Moody, which he's expendable. All their money stops when Steph stops. Technically, there's Buddy has non-guaranteed money, but he technically has an option. He has a unique contract. He has an interesting contract.
in what sense?
So, his third year is non-guaranteed. Actually, it's $3 million guaranteed, and then his fourth year is a player option.
Oh, guaranteed and
Yeah.
all year.
Well, so that's the thing. It has to match. We talked about that earlier. It has to
Oh, he's matched.
terms. So it is $3 million guaranteed, but it's scaled up base percentage wise. So like he went from 9.7 to 10.1. So the guarantee is proportionately larger. So it goes from 3 million to 3.1 whatever, 3.1 whatever. So it is partially guaranteed but he only gets it if he opts in. If he opts out, then it doesn't. There's no salary to be guaranteed because
Yeah.
the year doesn't exist. If he opts in, but they can cut him before the option anyway, because he's only $3 million guaranteed the year before. The option may not even matter because he's not under contract to opt in. So it's a very unique, not wholly unique, but right now I think it's the only player option after a non-guarantee
Oh, okay.
on the books, except for a similar-ish kind of thing with and the rules are slightly different in ETO. With Duncan, they're slightly different because that rule of having the guarantee to match, like the terms have to match in a player option, team option, they actually don't have to match in an ETO. So that's all these little different rules so that you have to keep track of.
So, but you would say Boston has the hardest path to get like under salary, to curb salary out of all these teams.
I mean, hard is all relative. It's just like, it's hard to exist in life, to function and survive.
Yeah.
Like Phoenix is facing like arguably the toughest position. Cleveland, if they're like, what do we do now? We're in the second apron. Denver, like if Jokic doesn't extend, that's arguably the hardest position. New York, if they don't win, like, I don't know. Maybe they're not in the hardest position. Maybe they are. Dallas, like, what do we do without Kyrie? The Lakers, like, what are we doing to try to improve? Minnesota, what do we do with Randall, who has a player option? I can go. Every team has a hard decision to make. Which one's the hardest is relative. It's subjective. It's just based on, where they are. I mean, the only team that appears to be not facing hard decisions is Oklahoma City because they seem like the best team and they seem the favorite to win it all. And their hardest decisions are just giving all their guys all the money that they need, that they could if they max everybody out. Is that a hard decision? If the answer is yes, they probably have to maintain that chemistry. And those guys are playing at a very high level at the highest stage in the league. They're going to get paid. Everyone has a hard decision, even OKC. I'm sure they're probably complaining about something this summer. Everybody complains about something. It's hard. All of our existences are hard in their own way, but I don't know which one's the hardest.
Yeah, no, I get that. And that every team, depending on the scenario, is going to have its own hard decision. But yeah, that's kind of what I had to ask you today, Eric. I do thank you for coming on. Again, all his information's down below in the link if you want. If you want to give us any spiel on where they can find you if they want to read more, learn more. I know you just launched your Substack as well last month.
Yeah. I forget to promote that. Like the main thing is check out Sports Business Classroom, because we are still admitting people. We have some spots left. We're not sold out yet, but we're a couple weeks away from being at a point where we're going to have to start saying there's only X amount of spots left. And it is an investment. It's not a inexpensive program, but it's also a very successful one at helping people get to the next spot, whether it's on the team side, agent side, just NBA industry side, media side. And I'm happy to answer questions. So I'm at Eric Pincus, EricPincus. That's on Twitter /X. You could just find me pretty easily. And I think, Cyro, you have some of my links or whatever in your program. So, but reach out, ask questions if you want to know about the program. And then I do have a Substack. I just launched the paid version. I'm still doing mostly free content. I actually have to catch that up after my trip to Chicago. I'm going to do a post on a little bit on my experience of just mapping out what the combine is like in terms of networking and such. But yeah, check it out. And happy to have conversations if you're interested in any of these things. I like to talk. I'm usually, as long as you're not coming at me saying, oh, you're an idiot, which, it's going to happen. But I'm always happy to have a conversation if you don't agree with my article.